Oh,
All
wait.
right, here we are. We are on. Okay. Hey, Makoa. Welcome to Koacolekin. We like doing this, and I hope you like it too. So, how have you been this last week?
It's been a stressful week.
Well, would you like to elaborate on that, or get right into it?
Um, the short of the long is I keep on trying to sell a house and contracts keep falling through and it's getting really annoying. I just want to sell my house.
I heard that. Give me 1 second. For some reason, my brightness on my phone is dimmed, but the brightness is
Does
all the
that
way up.
mean that I look like somebody from Dot India?
No.
No, I still look white. Even though I'm part Spanish. It's like I got none of it. Nope. Okay, fine. Shame. Let my head drip in shame.
All right. All right. So the topic today is, in some ways, Christianity. So I'm just going to read to you something that I've written. If you're ready.
I'm not.
Oh,
Totally
okay.
not ready.
Yeah, me either. Honestly, here we go. Uh, I consider myself a Christian, and from my understanding, you do as well. I also know you to be fairly open-minded, and you strive to not live within a bubble. I have respect for that, and I don't like to think that I live within a bubble, but I know that I'm completely uneducated in many different ways, which creates a bubble of its own. So I'm venturing out to try to understand different ways of thinking. Could this desire be the metaphysical equivalent of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? And do you think when the Bible speaks about the fruit of the uh, tree of knowledge of good and evil, that it was ever an actual fruit from a physical tree, and that once it was eaten, basically, uh, basically created the downfall of man? Basically,
Can you phrase that in a different way?
um,
It's a good question.
okay. Let's start with the first part of the question. It's kind of multiple piece. So, is my desire to understand different ways of thinking basically a metaphysical version of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil?
No,
No.
I don't think that's a downfall at all. I think that's an uplifting of oneself in a positive way, not a negative way.
Okay.
I by no means think that a desire for knowledge is what tears you down.
I don't think that it would. It's a tear down thing, but gaining more knowledge grants you some good benefits and some bad benefits. And having a a knowledge of, say, I don't even have an example right now, but it could open doors to things that maybe we shouldn't have doors open to. Don't you think?
no, I think it's completely opposite. That those doors should be open and they should be explored. In order to progress, in order to actually create something new. For example, as a kid, and let's just go into the full-on crazy example. Um, as a kid, before you realized anything about sex, your thought on the world was a lot smaller than it actually is now.
Okay.
Were you diminished once you realized the birds and the bees?
No.
So it's essentially entering into that same type of paradox where, except for it's much more refined to where everybody knows about sex, For this, for what we're doing, what we're exploring, and what we're trying to encourage other people to do as well by trying these things out on our own, it's it's a much smaller group of people that will go into it. But it's the same type of thing. It's just a transition from one thing to another thing. It's just going deeper. I That's off the top of my head. That's the best analogy I have for you on that one.
Okay.
It's there's it's not like it's anything crazy special or anything. It's just going to the next step, trying something new, and following through on it.
Okay. So then, what if you could describe what would be in actuality?
You just went silent, my good fellow. Hello?
I think I'm
Now,
back. Can you hear me?
yes,
Can you hear me?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Say something.
Hello.
I can't hear you. Make sure your mic is on.
It says my mic's on.
Look down at the bottom of your screen and see if the mic is red or white. Oh, the mic's off, mic's on now. Huh.
Hello.
Can't hear you though.
I can hear you just fine.
Oh
Sound good.
no. Now we're gonna have problems. Okay, so I'm gonna rephrase my question, and I'm not gonna be able to hear you, but I just want to get out what I was gonna try to get out. But from your perspective, what would be the actual equivalent of, or what would be the actual metaphysical equivalent of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? I'm not going to be able to hear your answer, so I'm going to act like I'm hearing you, and then I'm going to review this video after we finish. I know it's recording, so I know that this sounds silly, but I want to hear your answer anyway.
Okay, so knowledge of good and evil. All right, so it's essentially like a veil being lifted off your eyes. Um, that's what it is. It's a veil being lifted up. It's you being showed a new reality. If you really want to dig deep into um, Genesis and the beginning of the human race, Adam and Eve subjected themselves to being open to sin. In order to have a knowledge of good and evil, they had to know how to sin in the first place. And so they created the system we live in now. Whereas before that point of eating the apple, they were completely shielded from the reality of sin. So the best correlation is the one that we brought up earlier in this conversation, which is a kid goes from having no idea what sex is and what the birds and the bees are, etc., to having a knowledge thereof. They've lost their innocence. That's the best example I can give in that area. But in losing their innocence, they gain knowledge and the ability to create. It's something new, it's something to press forward into, but it's also something that you can massively abuse. Hope that answers this question.
Okay, so are you? Did you finish your explanation or your answer?
You really can't hear me still.
What? Okay, I'm gonna go, and then maybe I can view this later. I'm so
Okay.
sorry. I got a phone call. So this is what happened. I got a phone call and it interrupted the stream, and so um it cut my mic out, but I turned my mic back on. I thought that I'd still be able to hear you, but I can't hear you. So I'm very sorry that this happened. We can start another one if you'd like, but I'm going to end my session right now.